Welcome to the 2024 General Election Meet the Candidate Forum. My name is Lindsay Allen, and I am joined by Naomi Bouts. We will be your moderators for the 2024 Meet the Candidate series. This year's forum is sponsored by the Hagedon Media Group, Quicksilver Studios, and the Joint Public Policy Committee of the Coeur d'Alene Regional, Hayden, Post Falls, and Rathdrum Chambers of Commerce, in partnership with the Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls Press. This forum is intended to allow you, the voter, to hear from the candidates representing various Idaho State legislative and Kootenai County positions, who will share their vision and policies to help inform your vote. Candidates will be given 1 minute to introduce themselves, then asked 3 questions with 2 minutes to respond to each question. Candidates will be allowed 1 minute for their closing statements. These forums provide a unique opportunity to connect with the candidate who seek to serve our community. By meeting our candidates one-on-one in a more casual environment, we aim to better inform Kootenai County voters about each candidate's point of view. We are here with State Senator for District 2 candidate Tom Hearn. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
You have a minute to do an introduction for the audience, please.
Okay, well, thank you for having me here. Again, my name is Tom Hearn. Just briefly, I've been a resident of Idaho since 1976. I now live down by Harrison. So I'm running for senator in District 2, which is a vast district that goes from Blanchard to Orofino. My background briefly, I was on the Coeur d'Alene School Board for 6 years. I was on the Harrison School Board for 2 years. I'm retired now. I used to own a mental health clinic in Coeur d'Alene. Before that, I worked in Child Protective Services up in Sandpoint and a little bit in Coeur d'Alene. And so I have a wife. I've been married for 44 years and have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. And I could talk a lot more, but I don't have a lot of time. So that's my background. Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Question 1 is, what is the most pressing legislative issue facing District 2, and how would you work to address it? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I think it's important for people to understand that District 2 is a very rural district, and the issues out in District 2 are different than they are, to some degree, not dramatically, but some degree than they are in Coeur d'Alene or the more urban areas. For me, the biggest legislative issue is that I'm really concerned about anyway, and if I'm in the legislature, I will fight for this, is public schools, supporting our public schools. As I said, I've been on 2 school boards, and my wife is a retired teacher. I'm really opposed to some of the things that are going on as far as vouchers, as far as moving public money to private schools or to homeschoolers. To me, that's a big issue. And when I was on the school board, I was also a member of the Idaho School Board Association. I was on the board of directors of that, and we saw what was going on around the state as far as schools. And Idaho has grossly underfunded schools for a long time. And if you compare Idaho's funding or way we fund to other states, most other states around, if you look around, do not run levies every 2 years. But Idaho, the legislature, because of its chronic underfunding, requires local school boards to run levies, and we don't like to do that. We didn't like to do those kind of things. but we had to do it because they were essential services. They were not supplemental. So to answer your question, as far as number one issue to me is support of public education. That's what I would be fighting for. There's a lot of other issues down there. The rural areas, the economy is not as good, in places like St. Mary's or Orfino or Blanchard as it is, of course, in the more urban areas. So that's a real concern too. But I guess top priority is public schools.
Thank you. Question 2 is, legislators often receive input from advocacy groups and organizations as well as your constituents. How will you balance these perspectives when supporting or opposing legislation? And what steps will you take to ensure transparency to your constituents?
Well, I know that as a legislator, as on school board I was on, you get a lot of pressure from various organizations or constituents that come up and ask you a lot of questions. One thing I would like to do that I know the incumbent hasn't done is I'd like to have regular meetings in the small towns and rural communities. I'd like to meet with the citizens in Wallace and all these different places in District 2. And I'd like to do that during the legislative session and when the legislative session is not in session. As far as lobbyists, I mean, that kind of comes with the territory. If you're a legislator, you're going to get lobbyists. I think that you have to maintain your integrity. I think you have to have good values, be an honest person. You can listen to what they have to say. And sometimes they're helpful as far as giving you some insights into particular pieces of legislation. They can be helpful. They're not always bad. But you don't they don't run the show. They're not people that you can listen to them, but I'm much more interested in listening to the citizens of District 2. And as I've been trying to do for the last 6 months, I've been going around to walking neighborhoods, knocking on doors, speaking at various groups and organizations, trying to be open-minded and listen to the concerns. As a mental health therapist, I was real good. Well, I did that for 27 years. I'm real good at listening to people, and I think I can use those skills of listening to people as a legislator, as I think I did on the school board. So that's how I answer that question.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, our last question is, if Proposition 1 passes, will you support it or will you vote to repeal it?
I would support it. I'm in favor of Proposition 1. I know that some people aren't, but I am. And the reason I'm in favor of it is I think, I've been around here a long time, and I've seen what has happened since they closed the primaries. There's in my opinion, a more extreme group of people are running some of the central committees now. There's some people that have been elected who I don't think represent the values of the communities. My opponent, for instance, well, there's some question whether or not he even lives in the district, but that's another issue. He doesn't. A lot of the people that the central committees go through this thing where they at least the Republican Central Committee, where they rate and vet people. And it's led to, I think, a fairly extreme group of conservatives. As far as I basically think opening up the primaries is a good idea. The ranked choice voting seems to be the more controversial issue. Most people I've talked to are all fine with opening the primaries, and they can see what has happened historically in the last 10, 15 years since they closed the primaries. Ranked choice voting, I think, is a little more controversial, but I don't think it's that. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I have some concerns about whether or not this bill is going to pass because the Republicans are dumping a ton of money into to trying to defeat it because they know it would lead to loss of some of their power. I mean, that's the reality. But possibly some more moderate people would be elected. Even people like Democrats might be elected, but certainly more moderate Republicans could be elected. So, but anyway, so I support Proposition 1. I would vote for Proposition 1, and if I was in the legislature and they wanted to repeal it, I would oppose that.
Thank you. Okay, now it is time for our closing statement. You have a minute to address our audience.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate this time. I live in a rural area. I've been in Idaho a long time. I have the history. I didn't say it, but because I didn't really have time. But I've been appointed. I have a long history of working in a bipartisan manner. 3 governors: Governor Andrus, Governor Kempthorne, and Governor Governor Otter appointed me to state boards down in Boise. I've also been appointed to boards by attorney generals, Al Lance and Jim Jones. So I've had a long history of working in a bipartisan fashion. I've got a lot of history as far as being on school boards. I know how to work to problem solve. Being a mental health therapist, I'm pretty good at problem solving. I would hope that people would at least consider the candidate and not just vote straight party line. That's the problem. People oftentimes just vote straight party line. Thank you.
On behalf of the Joint Public Policy Committees representing the Coeur d'Alene Regional, Hayden, and Post Falls and Rathdrum Chambers of Commerce, in partnership with the Hagenon Media Group and Coeur d'Alene Post Falls Press, Lindsay and I thank all candidates for participating. I would also like to thank the production team members at the Quicksilver Studios, the Hagenon Media Group, and the Coeur d'Alene Press. And of course, thank you to those who have taken the time to learn more about each of the candidates featured in this year's Meet the Candidate series. This series has made it possible to hear from 23 Kootenai County local race candidates. We sincerely thank candidates who took the time to discuss what is important to voters in Kootenai County. We hope this town hall forum has helped inform those still uncertain about whom they will cast a final ballot for in the coming weeks. Please remember to vote. It's one of the most significant rights and responsibilities as Americans. The fundamental message this year is cast informed votes. Thank you.